In the last video, we talked about the difference between us and our thoughts. In this video, you learn how to turn your mind into an instrument that works for you instead of against you. Have you ever wondered why, by default, we are inclined to be unproductive? How come we're drawn towards wasting time, but not drawn towards working? How come it's so easy to stay on the couch and so hard to go to the gym? How come it's so hard to wake up early in the morning, but so easy to stay up late? Why does our mind work against us? Although it may seem so at first, our mind doesn't actually work against us. Our mind is neither good or bad. It just makes us do what we're used to doing. We are conditioned in two ways: genetically and environmentally. We evolved into humans through millions of years of evolution. Although we developed an intellect, we still have many animal instincts. One of them is self-preservation. That's probably one reason, if we're fed and we have shelter, we tend to be lazy. But we're also conditioned environmentally. Growing up, we picked up the habitual behavior of the people around us, our family. If you closely study the members of your family, you'll see that most of your habits came from them. Unfortunately, when we were kids, we didn't know what was good or bad for us. So we ended up accepting both the bad and the good habits of the people around us. For example, if you grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, you most likely pick up their work ethic or tendency to take risks. On the other hand, if you grew up around people who drank too much alcohol, you most likely do that as well. Our mind absorbs the information we are exposed to and directs our behavior based on that information. So it's not that we are bad by default. We just behave the way we are conditioned to. If you'd have grown up in the same house with Elon Musk, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Neil deGrasse Tyson, believe me, you'd have been a hard worker, scholar and visionary by default. That's because you'd have picked up their habits and beliefs and behaved just like them. In that case, your mind would have been programmed to your advantage.
Now, you probably got into this course because you have some bad habits that you'd like to change. Maybe you procrastinate too much, or maybe you don't keep your promises. You can change those habits with their opposites. But it is in the process of changing a habit that your mind works against you. Let me explain using an illustration. This illustration shows a model of the mind in which it's divided into two parts, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Both affect the actions of our physical body, meaning our behavior. Keep in mind, this is a model of the mind. There are others. This one serves to explain how your habits are formed and changed. The conscious mind holds your mental faculties: reason, imagination, will, memory, perception, and intuition. This is the part that thinks, imagines, and makes decisions. The subconscious mind has a different role. The subconscious takes the repeated actions of the conscious mind and makes them automatic. This is the place where your habits are located. The process of creating a subconscious behavioral pattern works like this. You are exposed to an idea from your environment. That idea goes into your conscious mind, where you reason if it's good for you or not. If you decide it's good, you accept it and let it pass in your subconscious mind to become part of your belief system. Now, when we were little, we didn't have an intellect, so we were not able to judge an idea. We just accepted everything around us as good. If this happened multiple times, that idea was passed on to our subconscious mind and turned into a habit. The reason our subconscious mind forms habitual thought and behavioral patterns is so that you can perform most actions without using your conscious mind. This leaves your mental faculties free to focus on something else. Let me give you an example you can all relate to. When you learn how to drive, all your conscious attention is focused on pressing the pedals, turning the wheel, looking in the mirrors, checking the dials, and so on. It takes a tremendous amount of concentration just to stay on the road. But if you repeat those actions long enough, they become subconscious and automatic. Now, you can probably drive steering with your knee while talking on the phone. You can listen to audiobooks or the radio in the car and concentrate on what the narrator says. In the beginning, you couldn't have done both learning and driving at the same time. But now, because driving is a habit, it no longer takes mental energy. And while driving, you can improve in other areas, such as learning from an audiobook. Actually, the less we depend on the conscious mind to perform an activity, the better we are at it. The marvel of playing a complicated song on the piano while having a conversation is proof of this. This process of forming a habit through repetition can be both a blessing and a curse. If the idea you're exposed to was good, You're just going to do the good thing automatically from now on without thinking about it. Awesome. But if that idea was bad, you're going to do the bad thing automatically. Not that awesome. Luckily, the programming of our subconscious mind can be changed, and it's done in the same way it was programmed in the first place, through repetition. Using our conscious mental faculties, we need to: number 1, be aware when you're about to fall into a habitual pattern. Number 2, resist that habit. Number 3, imagine what we want to do instead, usually the exact opposite of that habit. And number 4, perform that action instead. For example, let's say you currently have the habit of going on Facebook as soon as you turn on your computer. You want to change that with the habit of watching an educational video. Using your conscious mental faculties, you need to: number 1, remember that you'll go on Facebook as soon as you turn on your computer. Number 2, not click on Facebook when you open the browser. Number 3, picture in your mind the site you actually want to go to. And number 4, click on that site instead. This sounds obvious, but as you'll see next, it is much more difficult to do than it sounds, because our conscious mind is weak. We have limited amounts of willpower and imagination, and we must do everything in our power to use them for this process and not waste them on stupid things.
As Radu said earlier, our mind has 6 mental faculties or mental muscles. They are called like that because they act indeed like a muscle. The more you use them, the stronger they become. And of course, the opposite is true as well. If you don't use your mental muscles, they will get weaker. Our 6 mental muscles are perception, reason, imagination, willpower, intuition, and memory. For developing discipline, we'll focus on just 2 of them: imagination and willpower, although all the mental faculties are involved in the process. Willpower is the raw power of the mind. It is the ability to hold a thought in your mind despite outside distraction. For example, when you resist playing a computer game to do your homework, you're using your willpower. Unfortunately, we have very little of it every day. In the book The Willpower Instinct, willpower is described like a battery. We wake up with a battery charged every morning, and that's the finite amount we get to use that day. To resist a habit and act against it, we need a big amount of willpower. So we must do everything in our power to conserve it throughout the day. The big problem is that every action that is not habitual uses willpower. Every decision we make uses willpower. For example, in the morning when you decide what you wear, you use a bit of willpower. When you're at the supermarket and you're trying to decide between 2 brands of a product, you use a bit of willpower. When you're in traffic and you have to fight for space, you're using your willpower. If we consume our willpower on these actions, when it comes down to resisting and changing a habit, we won't have enough left. The wisest and most productive people in history knew this. They did everything they could to automate their lives so that they don't waste willpower on small things. Most of these great people dressed the same every day, had the same meals every day, walked the same streets every day, had the same schedule every day, all so that they conserve willpower for their work. But most of us do exactly the opposite. We waste our willpower on irrelevant things and then we wonder why we can't be disciplined. For example, one of the biggest consumers of willpower is social media. Did you know that? Social media drains your willpower because your mind is forced to jump from thought to thought every second. When you scroll down your feed, you may see a photo of a friend, news about a party, a car accident, a motivational quote, a picture of a cat, and so on. Your mind is being inundated with so many different things that it's messing up your ability to concentrate. Also, we're presented with hundreds of choices every hour. On YouTube, you see 30 videos on a single page and you have to decide which one you'll watch. Each one of those small choices is draining your mental energy and you don't even realize it. When you get out of social media, you feel agitated and unable to concentrate. So the key to preserving your willpower is to make as few irrelevant choices as possible in one day. Always start your day with your work, because that's when your willpower battery is full. While you're working, turn off notifications on your phone. Don't go on social media. Don't check your email. Don't read the news headlines before working. Don't go shopping before work. Limit your decision making as much as possible. There's a cool exercise you can use. Set a timer for 15 minutes. In that time, focus on your project and nothing else. After the timer goes off, take a 10-minute break in which all you do is walk around or look out the window. Do nothing that will consume your attention, just pure relaxation. Then, begin work again for 50 minutes. It's an efficient way to preserve and use your willpower.
Now that you understand how willpower works, let's talk about imagination. Imagination is the ability to form images in your mind. While willpower is the ability to hold that image in your mind, imagination is what creates that image. Regarding discipline and habit change, what you must understand is that imagination is more powerful than willpower. Why? Because our behavior is controlled by the pictures we have in our mind. If we want to act differently, first we have to imagine how we want to act. It's not sufficient to say that we don't want to act a certain way. We must see how we want to act. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to lose some weight and you want to stop eating hamburgers. When you say, I want to stop eating hamburgers, what do you see in your mind? You see yourself eating hamburgers. There may be a big red X on that image, but you see yourself inside the burger place eating hamburgers. And guess what? That's what you'll feel like doing. Your willpower can't do anything to change that image because you don't even know what you want to change that image with. The key is to imagine yourself doing what you want to do, not what you don't want to do. For example, imagine yourself eating a salad. Then use your willpower to hold that image in your mind. Now, because your behavior follows the images in your mind, you will by default not eat hamburgers and eat salad instead. The key to change is not fighting an old habit, it's creating a new habit in its place. If, for example, you say, I want to stop smoking during my breaks at work, you just see yourself smoking in your mind and you won't be able to change. What you must say is, I want to take walks outside during my breaks at work. This way, by default, you stop smoking and you put a new habit in its place. So here's a very important lesson. Forget the habit that you're trying to change and focus on the habit that you want to develop. The key to change is not in fighting the old, it's in nourishing the new.
In the PDF below this video, we prepared a few practical exercises for you. They will help you exercise your willpower and imagination so you can change your habits easier. Click on it to do the exercise. It's very important that you do. Just hearing us talking about this won't do you much good. You must do the practical exercises. In the next video, we'll talk about your biggest gift, the power of choice. You will learn how to form the image of the person you want to become and then plant it into your subconscious mind. Thank you and see you in the next video.